Hi everyone, this is Kanika and in this video we'll be discussing about physical security and disaster and its control. So first we'll discuss about physical security and then we'll move on to the discussion of disaster. Okay, so what is physical security? Physical security means protection. Protection of physical assets. So protection of physical assets. Now the question comes that what are physical assets? So physical assets can be servers or data centers or networking equipments. I'm not writing the whole word here, and any other resource that can store or transmit sensitive information is physical asset. So the protection of these physical assets is known as physical security. So physical security is all about keeping things safe. So if you are taking notes, you can first say that physical security means protection of physical assets, and then it means that keeping our things safe, things as in the equipments, data centers, that physical assets safe. So protection of physical assets, we have said keeping physical assets safe. And what do we mean by this line, keeping physical assets safe? This means that we need to keep our physical assets safe from physical threats. Physical threats like theft, so that any unauthorized individual cannot steal our information, and unauthorized access or any kind of damage. So we mean that we need to keep our physical assets safe. So we are saying that we need to keep our physical assets safe from these things: thefts, unauthorized access, damage, right? And we are talking about physical security, and physical security involves things like locks, which we will be discussing further, locks, and then you can say security guards and surveillance cameras. These points we'll be discussing further as we move forward, and then access control systems, right? So we have talked about physical security. Now what is the need? What is the importance of physical security? Why physical security is needed? Physical security, you remember CIA triad we discussed in the very first video of information security. This means confidentiality. Confidentiality means that our data, sensitive data, should not get into the wrong hands. I means integrity. Integrity means that data should be accurate and should not be modified by unauthorized individuals. And next is confidentiality, integrity, and next is availability. Availability means data should be readily available. So why physical security is needed? Because of these three principles of information security: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Without proper physical security, unauthorized access, such as which we discussed, like theft, damage to our critical assets, can compromise these three principles: confidentiality, integrity, availability. So these three things, confidentiality, integrity, availability of our sensitive data, would not be achieved if there is no physical security. So physical security is the overall foundation. Therefore, we will be needing physical security. Hence, it is very important aspect of information security, right? So these are the things which we discussed in physical security. So we have discussed physical security and why it is important and what is its meaning and its definition. Now let's discuss about disaster and controls. Okay, so let's first understand about disaster and then we'll talk about its control. So what is disaster? We all know that disaster can be anything unexpected that causes harm or damage. So it can be anything that can cause harm or damage to our physical asset. you can say harm or damage to the physical asset. And this could be, disaster of two types, natural and man-made. Like natural disasters are floods, earthquakes, tsunamis, fires, and severe weather conditions. And there are man-made disasters as well, which are power outages or equipment failures, or there can be act of vandalism like theft, damage to our physical assets, right? So these are the disasters. So disaster can be of two types. I'm not writing it, but to make you understand, disasters are of two types: natural like floods, earthquakes, tsunamis, fires, and then there is man-made disaster like power outages, equipment failures, vandalism, thefts, etc., right? So these are the disasters. These disasters cause harm or damage to our physical assets. And if we talk about controls, what is control? Control means what could be the potential measures or actions we are taking to prevent this disaster. Measures or actions to prevent disasters is what is controls. So we are aware about disaster. Now we'll talk about controls, that how can we prevent these disasters. Okay, so we have talked about disaster. Now I am writing here what could be the potential actions or measures we can take to control disasters. So the very first thing is risk assessment. From the name itself, it is very clear. Risk assessment means that we'll check for the potential disasters and we'll assess their likelihood, that how much frequent they could impact our physical assets. So we will assess these things and will calculate the risk accordingly. So this is risk assessment. Next one is physical access controls. Physical access control means we will limit the access to our data centers, to our servers or sensitive areas. And how we will limit the access? So physical access control means we will limit access. We'll restrict the access of data centers or other sensitive areas with the help of locks, with the help of keys, and with the help of there is key card, with the help of biometrics. So with the help of these measures, locks, keys, key cards, biometrics, we can limit the access of our sensitive areas and data centers. Next one is surveillance cameras. That means we can install several cameras to monitor and detect unauthorized activities and suspicious activities, right? So this is surveillance cameras. Next one is fire suppression systems. So what we can do is we can install fire alarms, and we can install sprinkler systems and fire extinguishers. So we can install these things before they cause extensive damage. So this is fire suppression systems. In case of natural disasters, we can use this. And these three, I think all are clear. So till now we have discussed 4 points and I think these points are clear to you. First one is risk assessment. We'll identify the potential disasters. Then physical access controls. We'll use these things to limit our access. Then for surveillance cameras, to monitor our suspicious activities and unauthorized activities, we can use cameras. And then fire suppression systems. Okay. Next one is backup power systems. That means we can use UPS systems or we can use backup generators to ensure continuous power in case of power outages. So we can use uninterrupted power supplies, which is UPS, or we can use backup generators, We can use backup generators to ensure that there is continuous power in case of power outages, right? And next one is data backups. Data backups. So data backups include frequently backing up of our critical data and storing up at a secure location, secure offsite location, so that our data would not get lost in case of disasters. So this is backing up of sensitive information at, let me write it down, backing up critical data, or I'm writing sensitive information in secure locations. Next one is emergency response. So we should have emergency response plans. So emergency response plans include testing plans such as evacuation procedures whenever any disaster happens. So we should have a testing plans. We should develop a regular testing plans such as evacuation procedures, and there are several protocols like communication protocols and emergency services. So we should develop these plans in hand so that whenever disaster happens, we are able to handle it effectively. Next is physical security policies. So establishing clear policies, rules and laws and procedures for employees to follow physical security measures and access controls. And by implementing all these procedures, all these measures which we have discussed, we can reduce the impact of disaster, right? So this is disaster and its control. So I hope you have understood this. Physical security and disaster and its control. So this was a very basic topic. So I hope you have understood it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye for now.